Truly, my soul wait upon God. From him cometh my salvation. He only is my rock and my salvation. He is my defense. I shall not be greatly moved. How long will you imagine mischief against a man? Ye shall be slain, all of you. As a bowing wall shall ye be, and as a tottering fence. They only consult to cast him down from his excellency. They delight in lies. They bless with their mouth, but they cursed inwardly. Selah. My soul, wait thou only upon God, for my expectation is from him. He only is my rock and my salvation. He is my defense. I shall not be moved. In God is my salvation and my glory. The rock of my strength and my refuge is in God. Trust in him at all times, ye people. Pour out your hearts before him. God is a refuge for us. Selah. Surely men of low degree are vanity, and men of high degree are a lie, and to be laid in the balance. They are altogether lighter than vanity. Trust not in oppression, and become not vain in robbery. If riches increases, set not your heart upon them. God has spoken once. Twice have I heard this, that the power belongeth unto God. Also unto thee, O Lord, belongeth mercy, for thou renderest to every man according to his work. Selah and Selah. Amen. Good evening, brothers and sisters. My name is Elder Colin, and I'm honored to stand before you today on behalf of the Israelite Nation Worldwide Ministries, a community rooted in truth, wisdom, and the ancient path of righteousness. Today, I invite you to journey with me to a question that's both personal and profound. The question is, in God do I trust? Not do I trust in God. You see, I change it. When I change it, this phrase challenges us, not just our belief, but our relationship with the Most High. Trust is not automatic. It is something we inherit. It is something we built. And we walk as Israelite. Trust in God is not just a feeling, it's a covenant. It's forged through obedience, tested in trials, and proven in the quiet moments when no one else is watching. Let us turn to Proverbs 3, verse 5 to 6. It says, verse 5, trust in the Lord with all thine heart, and lean not upon thine own understanding. And in all thy ways acknowledge him, and he shall direct thy path. How often we lean on our own understanding? How often do we say, I trust in God? But as something happens, everybody panics. We all panic when the storm comes. So do we really trust in God? So the statement, in God do I trust, is a mirror. It reflects our spiritual maturity. It asks, do I trust God? When the answers are delayed, when healing hasn't come, when the provisions look scarce, when the world around us is loud, but his voice is quiet. The question is not meant to shame. It's meant to awaken, because trust is not passive, it's active. It's choosing to walk forward even when the path is unclear. It's believing that the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob is still the same today, and that his promises are not just ancient, they are alive. As part of the Israelite Nation Worldwide Ministries, we are called to be a light to the nations. But we cannot shine if we're dimmed by doubt. We cannot lead if we're paralyzed by fear. And we cannot fulfill our purpose if we do not trust the one who gave it to us. So today, me and Elder Michael will explore this topic together. I challenge each of us to ask, not just with lips, but with our lives. In God, do I trust? And if the answer is not yet, let it be let it be this day we begin to trust in the God. So there's this simple statement that's very profound. It's very spiritual and it's very history. In God, do we trust or do I trust? But before we talk about what God of the Israel has done, we need to understand who he is. Because trust begins with knowing the one you're trusting. How can you trust someone if you don't know the person? You have to know the person for you to trust them. So let us read Judges 10. And we're going to show you that most people think that there's only one God. Because that's a common statement. Everybody says, oh, there's only one God. So my God is the God we trust. Remember, we're trying to know who this God is. So let's go to Judges chapter 10. And I'm going to show you that there are so many other gods out there. And they even have names. So Judges 10. Let's read from verse 6. And the children of Israel did evil in the sight of the Lord. They served Baalim and Ashtaroth and the gods of Syria and the gods of Zidon and the gods of Moab and the gods of the children of Ammon and the gods of the Philistine, and forsook the Lord and served him not. So you see, there are other gods. Even the Israelites serve these other gods. They are other gods. Let's turn to 1 Kings 18:24. 1 Kings 18, verse 24. And it reads, and call ye on the name of your gods, and I will call on the name of the Lord, and the God that answered by fire, let him be God. And all the people answered and said, it is well spoken. So there are other gods. They're your gods versus the God of this Bible. He's different. Jeremiah 16:20. Jeremiah 16, verse 20. Verse 20. Shall a man make gods unto himself, and there are no gods? So man create their own gods. So there are other gods. Let's jump to Deuteronomy chapter 5. We're going to read Deuteronomy 18, verse 20. And this is very, very profound verse. And I want you to listen carefully. Verse 20, Deuteronomy 18. But the prophets, which shall presume to speak a word in my name, which I have not commanded him to speak, or that shall speak in the name of other gods, even the prophet shall die. So what is this saying? Because a lot of people come out every day and say, oh, I spoke to God. God spoke to me. Oh, I had a conversation with God yesterday. And he said this and he said that. But what this is saying, if you speak in the name of other gods, even the prophet shall die. So the question is, who is this God of Israel in the Bible? This is not a theological inquiry, who this God is. It's a spiritual awakening. Because to know the God of Israel is to know who we are, why we exist, and how we are called to live. So let's look at who this God is. The God of Israel is the creator. In Genesis 1, verse 1, it says, in the beginning, God created the heaven and the earth. So he's the almighty creator. This God is the supreme creator, not a tribal deity, not a mythical figure, but one God who spoke light into existence. He speaks. He forms man from the dusk and whom breath of life into his nostrils. So this is a living God. He's not made by human hands. He's not confined to temples or idols. He's eternal. Yes, invisible and all powerful. This God of Israel is a covenant keeper. Let's turn to Genesis 17, verse 7. So you see the God of Israel, he made a covenant. 17, verse 7. It says, and I will establish my covenant between me and thee and thy seed after thee in their generation for an everlasting covenant. Not something that lasts for a day or two. It's an everlasting covenant. To be a God unto thee and to thy seed after thee. This God didn't just make a promise. It's a relationship. So the God of Israel is a covenant God. He binds himself to his people with laws, statutes, and commandments. He's faithful even when the Israelites turn their back on him. He disciplines, but he never abandons. Look at Amos 3, verse 1 to 3. Amos 3 says, hear the word that the Lord had spoken against you, O children of Israel. So he's speaking to the children of Israel. He says, against, let me read that again. Hear this word that the Lord has spoken against you, O children of Israel, against the whole family which I brought up from the land of Egypt, saying, listen carefully, you only have I known of all the families of the earth. So this God only knows Israel. He only deals with Israel. And therefore, I will punish you for all your iniquities. So yes, he disciplines. So when the Israelites break the laws, the statutes, and the commandment, he punishes them. He disciplines them. But he never abandoned them. This covenant continues through Isaac, not Ishmael, as some people think, through Jacob, not Esau. It's a chosen lineage. These people are chosen, not a random selection. He called Abraham out of the Chaldeans. And he says to him, I will make you a covenant between me and you. So here he's establishing a relationship between himself and another man. Let's read this in Genesis 35. Genesis 35. I'm going to read from verse 10 to 12. 35. And God said unto him, Thy name is Jacob. Thy name shall not be called any more Jacob, but Israel shall be thy name. And he called his name Israel. And God said unto him, I am God Almighty. Be fruitful and multiply. A nation and a company of nations shall be of thee, and kings shall come out of thy loins. And the land which I gave to Abraham and Isaac, to thee I will give it, and to thy seed after thee I will give the land. A lot of people are saying, oh, there's a land named Israel. There's no land. That's a copy. Israel is the name of a man. Jacob is Israel. Wherever Israel goes, or wherever Jacob goes, that place is called Israel, because the land is always named from the people who live there. But the people has to come first. So that land that people are saying is Israel today, bear in mind that Israel is the name of a man that the God of Israel chose, a man who the God of Israel loved. So we've seen that God is the Almighty Creator. We see that He's a covenant keeper. So you learn something about His characteristics. Now, once you're going to build a relationship, the next thing you need to know is what is His name. Do you know that God really do have a name? Yes, He does. Let's turn to Exodus 3 and verse 14 to explain to you His name and the name that He was given. When Moses asked him, what is thy name? So, to get context, the chapter of Exodus 3 is when Moses was called by God to deliver the children of Israel from Egypt. So he spoke to God. Remember the story of the burning bush? Yes. Moses and God was having that conversation. And he was explaining to him that he heard the cries of the children. And he was sending him down to deliver them. Then after the conversation, Moses asked him. And I'm going to read from verse 13. Moses said, And Moses said unto God, Behold, when I come unto the children of Israel, and say unto them, The God of your fathers has sent me unto you, and they shall say to me, What is his name? What shall I say unto them? So a lot of people say they heard from God, but the people never asked that person who said they heard from God last night, who sent you? What is the name of the God that sent you this message? Because if somebody comes to you with a message, you want to know where the message is coming from. You can't just say, God send me. I told you earlier that there are many gods. There's gods of there, gods of this, gods of that. So which God are we talking to? So Moses wants to make sure that when he talks to the children, they know exactly who is sending him. So he's asking the God here in 13, what is your name? Verse 14. And God said unto Moses, I am that I am. That's a statement. That's showing who he is. I can be whatever I want to be. That's not a name. That's a statement to saying that I am the Almighty God. I am that I am. And he said, thus shall thou say unto the children of Israel, I am that sent me unto you. Verse 15. And God said moreover unto Moses. So even after he make that early statement, he never finished speaking. Verse 15. Moreover, so he's still speaking to Moses. He says, thus shall thou say unto the children of Israel. Listen carefully. The Lord God of your fathers, the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob, has sent me unto you. Hold on. This is what it says. This is my name forever. When is forever again? Oh, I thought so too. Forever. And this is my memorial unto all generations. All generation. Forever. It doesn't stop. It never changes. It doesn't flip when you get into the New Testament. Everybody say, oh, God don't name this anymore. He named something else. This is his name. This is what he said. Not somebody reported it. That's what he said. He says, God said. So he said, this is my name forever. The God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob. This is the self-existing one. He's not defined by time, space, or circumstances. He is simply the I am that I am, the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob. This name is holy. It is not to be taken lightly or used in vain. And I'm going to show you why. Let's turn to Ezekiel 39, verse 7. Ezekiel 39, verse 7. Verse 7. So I will make my name, so will I make my holy name known in the midst of my people Israel? Did he not just explain his name to the children of Israel? So now he's telling you that his name is holy, sacred. And I will not let them pollute my holy name anymore. And the heathen shall know that I am the Lord, the Holy One of Israel. So the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob is a holy name. And throughout this book, he speaks about his holy name. So his name is not something you should take very lightly or should use in vain. No, you know what the name is. That name is holy. It says so in Psalms 99. Psalms. That's what it says in Psalms 99. The Lord reigneth. Let the people tremble. He sitteth between the cherubims. Let the earth be moved. The Lord is great in Zion, and his eye above all the people. Let them praise thy great and terrible name, for it is holy. The God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, the God of Jacob is a holy name. Psalms 138 says that too. I will praise thee with my whole heart. Before the gods will I sing unto thee. I will worship towards thy holy temple. and praise thy name for thy loving kindness and for thy truth. For thou hast magnified thy word above all thy names. His name is holy. Do you know that Jesus, which most people are calling God today, says this in Matthew 22? Because a lot of people say, oh, you're teaching from the Old Testament. That's done away with. But let's look what the New Testament say and even what Jesus said. Turn with me to Matthew 22. And it'd be good if you read that entire chapter. But in the interest of time, I'm just going to focus on what Jesus said. I'm going to start read from verse 30. Yeah. I'm going to read from verse 29. Matthew 22. Jesus answered and said unto them, ye do err, you do all wrong, not knowing the scriptures nor the power of God. A lot of people don't know the scriptures. They just talk. They never read the book. They make up stories about the book. They read one sentence and they create a whole story about the book. Nobody pick up this Bible and read from Genesis to Revelation. Where do you ever read a book and start at the end or in the middle? How can you understand a book if you read it only from one section? You have to start reading the book from the beginning. That's the only way you're going to understand this book. So here he's saying, you do err, not knowing the scriptures, nor the power of God. For in the resurrection they are neither marry, nor are given in marriage, but are as angels of God in heaven. And as touching the resurrection of the dead, have you not read what was spoken unto you by God? So Jesus is speaking, and he's telling you what God says. He's not saying what I said, Jesus said. He's telling you what God said. And he's saying in verse 32 that God said, I am the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob. Jesus said that. Jesus is telling the people that God is the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob. God is not a God of the dead, but of the living. If you look around, everybody's worshiping some dead God. Some worship chariots, some worship horses. But we worship the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob. Jesus said that. Even Stephen said that in Acts chapter 7. So listen what Stephen said. A man being filled with the Holy Ghost. Acts chapter 7. Acts, New Testament. This is after Jesus dead and gone. Stephen, an apostle, is saying, verse 31, when Moses saw it, he wondered at the sight, and he drew near to behold it. And the voice of the Lord came unto him, saying, I am the God of thy fathers, the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob. Then Moses trembled, and the dust not behold. So there's no doubt as to what the God name is. They've said it. It's in this book. You all read in this book and you don't say that the name of God is the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob. This God is just and merciful. Moses declared, he is the rock. His work is perfect, for all his ways are judgment, a God of truth and without iniquity. Just and right is he. Deuteronomy 32, verse 4. We're talking about the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. He's a just God. He's the God of truth. He says, they that worship me must worship me in spirit and in truth. God can't lie. He's the God of truth. He's not a God of chaos or confusion. He's a God of order, justice, and truth. Isaiah 10:18. For the Lord is a God of judgment. Blessed are all that wait for him. Justice is not a trial, it's a part of his identity. He defends the oppressed, he punishes the wicked, and he rewards righteousness. He's a God of order. Corinthians 1:14-3. For God is not the author of confusion, but of peace. How can you have a God speaking to 10 different people at the same time, giving them 10 different messages? How is that possible? That's going to create confusion. So everybody's hearing from God, but everybody's giving a different message. So one philosophy over here say, oh, I heard from God last night, he told me this. And this one over here said they speak to the same God and he told them something different. That's confusion. That's not the God of this Bible. The Bible tells you that in 1 Corinthians. This is not the author of confusion, but of peace. In the structure of the creation in Genesis, it detailed in Leviticus. He operates with precision and purpose. Day 1, he creates this. Day 2, he creates this. Read the order in Genesis 1. Day by day, order by order, he does what he's doing. Even when he instructed Moses to build the tabernacle, he gives exact measurements, materials, and procedure. He tells you exactly how to do things. Worship isn't chaotic, like what you see all around. It is sacred and structured. There's a system that you follow because God is a God of order. He's the God of truth. Psalms 19, verse 160 says, thy word is true from the beginning, and every one of thy righteous judgment endureth forever. He's the God of truth. He doesn't change. Whatever he says stays. His words last forever. John 17:17. Sanctify them through thy truth. Thy word is truth. As I've said to you before, God is the God of truth. Truth cannot lie. Though spoken by Christ, this affirms the continuity of truth from the Old Testament to the New Testament. The God of Israel doesn't lie, he doesn't deceive or manipulate. In Numbers 23:19, God is not a man that he should lie. His truth is not circumstantial, it's absolute. What he says, he means. What he promises, he fulfills. Why does this matter? Understand that the God of Israel is a God of order, justice, and truth. And that shapes how we live. We pursue justice, not vengeance. We seek order, not chaos. We stand on truth, not trends. Truth. So we take this book, this Bible, and we speak what the Bible says, because the word in the Bible is truth. We don't follow trends. Everybody's following the trend today. It's a trend, how many views I get. So I have to do what I have to do to get views. We speak truth. If we get the support, yes. but we speak the truth, and our truth doesn't change because God's truth does not change. So we speak truth all the time. We don't follow trends. It means, therefore, we can trust him because he's not random. He's not corrupt or deceptive. He's holy, consistent, and faithful. He's also merciful. The Lord is merciful and gracious, slow to anger, and plenteous in mercy. Psalms 103, verse 8. That's balance. Justice, mercy. That's what makes him worthy of our trust and obedience. This God is also a deliverer. How many times you've seen it in the Bible? He delivered Noah from the flood. He saved him. He delivered Abraham from adultery. He called him out of Ur and gave him a new life. Even the children of Israel, when they were in Egypt, going through their struggles, he delivered them with signs and wonders. We all read the stories. You see the 10 plagues. You see the parting of the Red Sea, how he delivered Israel from the oppressors. In Exodus 15, verse 2, after crossing the Red Sea, Moses sing, "The Lord is my strength and song. He is become my salvation. He is my God, and I will prepare him an habitation. My father's God, I will exalt him." He's not distant. He's active. He intervenes and he saves his people. You know what's funny? A lot of people like to say, "Oh, God is for everyone. But God so loved the world." But to your surprise, the God of Israel is not the God of everyone. Sounds controversial, right? Because the Bible says he loves the world. He gave his only begotten son. And here I'm saying that the God of Israel is not the God of everyone. Sounds controversial, right? But it's biblical. Let me take you to Joel 2, verse 27. It says, "And ye shall know that I am in the midst of Israel, and that I am the Lord your God, and none else. And my people," this is God saying, "my people," so he has a people, is not for everyone. "My people shall never be ashamed." My people. That's what God says. And when you read this book, the King James Version Bible, that God, the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, God of Jacob, talks about my people, his people, not everyone. He only speaks to his Israelites prophet. You check it. You turn a page in this book. Show me any time that God is speaking. If he's not speaking to an Israelite prophet that he appoints, that they should send instruction to the children of Israel. Speak to the children of Israel. Speak to the children of Israel. It's all over the Bible. That's why he's the God of Israel. Even Jesus, when he says, "I come not but unto the lost tribe of the house of Israel." So Jesus didn't even come for the world. He came for Israelites. So he's not a God of every nation. He's not a God of the world. He is the God of Israel. And if you doubt it, read 2 Samuel chapter 7. In the interest of time, I won't read it for you today. But make a note of that chapter. Go read it. Tell me who he's talking about. Israel. So a lot of people say, oh, as I said before, for God so loved the world. You think about it. If your children was in a place, would you not love the place because your children are there? Would you destroy that place because your children are there? So somebody says that, for God so loved the world. But if you're a lover of the world, you're an enemy of God. Did you know that? Let's turn to Malachi 1, verse 1 to 4. Malachi chapter 1. The burden of the word of the Lord to Israel. Again, I tell you, God only talks to Israel. So Malachi chapter 1. The burden of the word of the Lord to Israel by Malachi. So he's speaking to Israel through the prophet Malachi. He said, I have loved you, saith the Lord. Yet you said, wherein hast thou loved us? Was not Esau Jacob's brother? Said the Lord. Yet I, the Lord, loved Jacob. He loved Jacob. You know what he said about Esau? Here's what he said, verse 3. And I hated Esau and laid his mountains and his heritage waste for the dragons of the wilderness. So he's not a God of the world. He loves only Jacob. And remember, Jacob's name was changed to Israel. And he said it. Israel I love. So he's not a God of the nation. He's the God of Israel. So now you understand why we say the God of Israel, because that's who is in this book. There's no other book that talks about the God of Israel. When you pick up the King James Version Bible and you read it, the God that is in there, he is the God of Israel. He is the God of Abraham. He's the God of Isaac, and he's the God of Jacob, whose name was changed to Israel. Our forefathers, the Israelites' forefather. This is a family here. Not a philosophy, it's a family through Abraham, through Isaac, and through Jacob. That's what he creates. Not a religion, but a family. And he gives them laws, he gives them statutes, he gives them commandments. And he says, if you love me, keep my commandments. That was the instruction given to Israel. That instruction was not given to the nations. It was not given to the world. It was given to Israel. So this book, the King James Version Bible, is talking about Israel and their relationship with their Father, their heavenly Father. As Jesus said in Luke 11, our Father who art in heaven. Our Father, Israelites' Father, because Jesus was a Jew, you know that, right? He was from the tribe of Judah. He is a descendant of the children of Israel. So our Father, the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob, hallowed be thy name. So the God of Abraham, holy name. God of Isaac, God of Jacob is a holy name and should not be taken in vain. So God loved Israel. I'm also going to give you one more verse, and this is what he says about Jacob to show you his relationship with Israel and as a family. So if you turn to Exodus chapter 4, and in verse 22, he says this. So this is when Moses was going to Egypt to talk to Pharaoh. I'm going to read from verse 21. And the Lord said unto Moses, when thou goest to return into Egypt, see that thou do all those wonders before Pharaoh, which I have put in thine hands. But I will harden his heart, that he shall not let the people go. And thou shalt say unto Pharaoh, this is God saying, thus saith the Lord, Israel is my son, even my firstborn. That's a relationship. That's a father and a son. You know how important it is to be a firstborn in Israel? To have the title of being firstborn, you get all the blessings. And the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob say that Israel, which includes all the children, all the tribes of Israel, his son, even his firstborn. That's a relationship. That's a family, father, son. That's what this book is about. It's about a relationship between a God and his people who he loves, Israel. So you can't pick up this book and talk about anything else, except you're talking about the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob, and his relationship with his family, his son, his firstborn. I don't know where you get your philosophy from. So others may worship idols, philosophies, or even false God. But we worship the one who chose us, who gave us his laws, his statutes, and his commandments, who called us to be a light to the nations. That's our God. That's the God of this book. So this God of Israel, he is the creator. He is the covenant keeper, the judge, the merciful father, the deliverer, the exclusive God to his chosen people. Not dealt so with any other nation or any other family. Throughout this entire book, he's only dealing with Israel. The only time you hear the names of other nations is when they come in contact with Israel or Israel is in contact with them. That's the only time you hear Egypt. The only reason why Egypt is mentioned, because Israel was in Egypt. And other nations that you may hear just because of their interaction with Egypt. Because the God is always calling his son to stay with him, follow his laws, his statutes, and his commandments. Don't stray. Don't turn your back on me. But so many times Israel disobeyed. Yes, he punishes them, but he never abandoned them because that is his son, his firstborn Israel. He even sent Jesus to call them back. That's why he called the prophet. That's why Jesus was sent for Israel to come back home. They didn't listen. They didn't take heed to his words. So he opened the door just to get Israel jealous so that they could come back to him. I too used to believe in these other gods. I'm a Jamaican born. And you know, Jamaican, Christian country. We all go to Sunday school. Jesus is God. We praise Jesus. We are all Christian. I felt like I was in that trap too for years. believing in these philosophies too. But you know one thing that I never did, and most of us was making the same mistakes? We're not reading the book from the beginning. We're listening to a pastor or whoever is talking to you, who is only telling you about the New Testament. And he himself doesn't even read the Old Testament. He doesn't even know that this book is about Israel. They think, oh, Israel is the Old Testament. But everywhere in the New Testament, it's all about Israel. Even your favorite apostle or that you all follow, Paul, is an Israelite. You open this book and you cannot find a Christian or any other philosophy that you hear out there in this book. People are reading from this book. People are teaching from this book. It's all lies, as I said in the beginning. They don't know what's going on here because they don't want you to know that you are the children of Israel and that the only salvation is in Israel, because that's the only nation this God, the creator of the heavens and the earth and everything upon, is the only people he deals with. They're the only people you should be adopted and come into this family. If you don't become a part of this family of Israel, how are you going to get the promise? The covenant was made with Abraham. Nobody else. He called Abraham. He made a promise with Abraham. Not a promise, sorry. A covenant with Abraham. An everlasting covenant. You can't get the benefits if you're not a part of a family. Know how close you are to your best friends. Or even Mr. Jones, your co-worker, you're so close with. You cannot get the benefits of his will if you're not a part of his family. Yes, he might give you a little here and there, but you will not get the benefits, the promises. You cannot get it if you're not a part of the family. So the only way salvation will come to you, you have to be a part of the Israelite nation. Because that's the only thing that's in this book. It tells you, even in the end, it's about the 12th tribe of Israel. No other nation. Israel is his son, his firstborn. So he's not just a concept. The God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob. He is a reality. He's not just in the Bible. He is our lives, our history, and our future. He's not one among many. He is the only true and living God. The God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob. It's not just a name. It is not just a regional deity. He is not a tribal myth. He is the creator of heaven and earth. And he chooses to reveal himself through a people. Not a religion, not a philosophy, a people. And that people is Israel. You realize when he revealed himself to Abraham, he was not a statue, not a force, but a speaking, guiding, living God. Speaks, he talks, he guides, he directs, he inspires. He's living. He's eternal and unchangeable. Malachi 3 verse 6 says, "For I am Lord, I change not. Therefore, ye sons of Jacob, remember Jacob is Israel, ye sons of Jacob are not consumed. The God of Israel does not change with culture. He does not shift with policies and politics. He's the same in the Old Testament. He's the same in the New Testament. He's the same today. And it will be the same forever. He's the same God that called Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob and established the everlasting covenant with them. He's the same God that delivered the children of Israel from the Egyptians with his mighty right hand. He's the same God that chooses the kings in the Bible. Saul, David, Solomon. Saul in 1st and 2nd Kings and Chronicles. Go read them. It's the same God that was with them. It's the same God who Jesus called our Father who art in heaven. Hallowed be thy name. His name is holy. And today, in 2025, it's the same God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob, in whom I and the people of the Israelite nation worldwide ministry put their trust in. It's the same God we worship today, the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob. So before I call up my good friend, Elder Michael, to finish the second part, let me ask you, brothers and sisters, do you know him? Do you walk with him? Do you trust him? Or just with your lips, but with your life? Let us not be Israelites in name only. Let us be Israelites in spirit, in truth, and in covenant. Let us honor the God of Israel, not just with praise, but with obedience, following his laws, his statutes, and his commandments. Be obedient, be humble, be disciplined. That's what he requires from us Israelites. As Israelites, let us teach the world not who we are, but who the God of Israel is. Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God is one Lord.
Make a joyful noise unto the Lord, all ye lands. Serve the Lord with gladness. Come before his presence with singing. Know ye that the Lord, he is God. It is he that hath made us, and not we ourselves. We are his people and the sheep of his pasture. Enter into his gates with thanksgiving, and enter his courts with praise. Be thankful unto him, and bless his name. For the Lord is good, and his mercy is everlasting, and his truth endureth to all generations. Welcome again, ladies and gentlemen, to the Israelite Nation Worldwide Ministries. And thank you, Elder Colin, for setting the tone for me. Elder Colin has done a very comprehensive job in identifying this God that we're talking about today, the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob. Because with a topic like "In God We Trust," it is essential to know which God. Because as Elder Collins stated, There are many gods. The rationale for this expression came from the expression "in God we trust," and this subject matter, that is. This is a statement that was made since 1956 by the leadership of the New Egypt in the United States. And it was officially added to their currency at that time. So it was just recent, 1956 or so. On their dollar bill, this statement is connected with the Egyptian pyramid, the obelisk from Egypt, obviously, the Eye of Horus. So this is why it is necessary for Elder Collin to distinguish between the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob, and the other gods, because the world will understand or will associate the comment "in God we trust" with the New Egypt or ancient Egypt or even Babylon. And we do this, or they would do this, I'm sure, because of the symbolism that I just described. The obelisk, the pyramid, Eye of Horus. I mean, I don't have any American currency. The tariffs are too high for me to accommodate it. But if you look up to my friends in the United States, take a look. Or to my friends in Canada and around the world, just go on, look it up on the internet, and you will see exactly what I'm trying to express to you. So basically, we're going to show you why we trust in the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob. We're going to explain that to you so that you have a clear understanding. Because in the world today, as Elder Collins said earlier, people get confused easily when it comes to God. They think that because you use the term God, that you're talking about the creator of heaven and earth. That's not true. And they have a tendency to use the big G when they're talking about God, even though they're talking about an idol. But that's a whole different story. Now, when we as Israelites say, "in God we trust," we have a different concept, a different meaning from those in the New Egypt, the United States. Trust and faith may be used interchangeably. Faith is the manifestation of the everlasting covenant between the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob and his Israelite royal family from whom we descended. Faith is our trust in the wisdom and the power of the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Faith requires the spirit of truth. It requires understanding. It requires obedience to the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Faith is a gift from the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob, a gift to his Israelite royal family. Therefore, faith comes with the spirit of truth. And just like the Christ, faith was only given to our Israelite royal family. So let there be no misunderstanding when we speak about the trust and faith in our God. Without the gift of faith, there would be no grace for the Gentile Europeans, because grace is our gift to those who want to serve our God. Anyone who is enlightened by the truth. We have to do the work to serve the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. And when we are blessed, we are eagerly willing to share that blessing with anyone who has the courage to seek the truth and to worship the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob. Put in their trust and confidence in him, especially his word, as we do. Thus, the spirit of faith is an exclusive Israelite gift from our Father, from father to son and daughter. And of course, he is the creator of heaven and earth. Faith defines this and describes our Israelite nation And it is a very strategic blessing because of our everlasting covenant. Our minister Paul confirms all of what I'm telling you right now. And I will go to 1 Corinthians chapter 12 to make that point. 1 Corinthians 12, we'll read from verse 8. Keep it simple. It says, "For to one is given by the Spirit the word of wisdom, to another." Well, maybe let's back up a little bit to put it in its proper context. Let's go from verse 4. And this is Minister Paul. He is saying, "Now there are diversities of gifts, but by the same Spirit. And there are differences of administrations, but the same Lord. And there are diversities of operations, but it is the same God which worketh all in all. But the manifestation of the Spirit is given to every man to profit withal." In other words, to benefit withal. Verse 8, "For to one is given by the Spirit the word of wisdom, to another the word of knowledge, but by the same Spirit. To another faith by the same Spirit." And there's the faith or the trust we have in our God. "To another the gift of healing by the same Spirit. To another the working of miracles. To another prophecy. To another discerning of spirits. To another diverse kinds of tongues. To another the interpretation of tongues. But all these worketh that one and the self same Spirit, dividing to every man severally as he will." So what Minister Paul is suggesting here, that there are many gifts from the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob to his family, to those that worship him in spirit and in truth. And the most significant thing is that all those different gifts are attributed to the same Spirit of the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob. That's the key. So you cannot just take your spirit, or your gift, I should say, and use it for profit or use it for self-empowerment. It's not about you. It's about your service to our God. That's the key that he's making. So we have to understand then, when we say in God we trust, that we put our faith and trust in the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, because he has blessed us with these tremendous gifts and the talents that we use to serve him by. This is the important message that Paul is given to the Corinthians. Hence, faith, just like religion, is not generic. A lot of people are surprised to learn that there's only one religion. Religion is the return of the Israelite to his or her father's house. That's what religion is. And not just a return to the house, according to the terms of the everlasting covenant. Because if you're coming into my house, you have to abide by my rules. If I come into your house, I have to abide by your rules. It's the same thing. If we know how to do that, how much more the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, who created the heavens and the earth? This is what it's all about. So faith, as I said before, like religion, is not generic. It is a unique and exclusive Israelite policy. Israelite gift, I should say. The gift from the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob to his Israelite royal family. And we'll go to another scripture just to make this clear as well. Let's go to the book of Ephesians. And you know, Paul did a great job, Minister Paul, because at the time of his teaching, he had a lot of, I don't want to use the term competition, but I would say a lot of political confusion from the Gnostics who were based in Alexandria, Egypt. And again, you can check this out for yourself. They were, I think they did a great job, by the way, and great meaning on the other side, not on the side of truth. They presented a different philosophy. I call it a philosophical buffet, where they took from Babylon, they took from Egypt, and they blended it with their own understanding, and even used some of the teaching of the apostles and Minister Paul to put forth their ideas. So when Paul was sent to teach the Gentile Europeans from Jerusalem, he had a lot of this confusion to deal with. He had to try to clear up all these issues because, you're going to teach, you're going into the synagogue, and suddenly someone stands up, they don't necessarily have a question, but they're presenting a different concept that contradicts what Paul is teaching. So he had to present some form of clarity to explain, and obviously a lot of this, very limited amounts of it, was understood by the Gentile Europeans. And we can tell from today that they use the Gnosticism as their foundation, their spiritual foundation. That is manifested in Catholicism, in Christianity, in Judaism, in Freemasonry. The list is so long. I only have a few minutes. I can't go on forever. But think about it, and please don't take me at my word. Investigate it for yourself and see what we're trying to put across and to enlighten you with. Let us go to the book of Ephesians. We'll read from chapter 4, verses 4 to 6. This is very important. Well, let's start at verse 1, just to put everything in context. I'm trying to save time, but sometimes it's better to be complete than quick. I, therefore, the prisoner of the Lord, beseech you that walk worthy of the vocation wherewith ye are called, with all lowliness and meekness, with long suffering, forbearing one another in love, endeavoring to keep the unity of the Spirit in the bond of peace. You see, this is his introduction. Those that have been called. Not everyone has been called, and many are called, but few are chosen. So keep that in mind. And the unity of the Spirit is the important thing here, and the bond of peace. Very significant. And here's how he described it. There is one body and one Spirit, even as ye are called in one hope of your calling. One Lord, one faith, one baptism, one God and Father of all, who is above all and through all and in you all. So let there be no confusion. This is strictly for those that have been called to serve the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. This is not for the world, even though he is speaking to the Ephesians. Yes, some of the Gentiles were called because they were in a very desperate situation, but nevertheless, they had a job to do. And Paul was sent to share the wisdom of Israel with them. One Spirit, in other words, one body, but many different gifts, serving the same God, the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob. This is very, very significant because this is why we who know different from the others, the rest of the world, we can say very clearly and very distinctly that in God we trust. But when we speak of the term God, we're talking about the original God, not those that have set themselves up to express vanity to lie and to deceive. That is not what we're talking about. So it is important that you understand the foundation of this subject. In God we trust. So now that we have it clearly defined, why don't I ask then, why is there a need, or what is the need for faith? How would you express that? How do you know that there is a need for faith? Well, because we could say anything, but is it worthwhile considering by the rest of the world or those who seek the truth? Let us go to to Thessalonians. And we'll read from chapter 2, and we'll look through the entire chapter, or as much of it as possible, to make the point, to show the need for that trust that is necessary in the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. And again, we're dealing with Paul, Minister Paul. And the rationale behind this, because in the days of old, we didn't need all of that. Yes, there were gods here and there and everywhere, but it was more precise for all Israelites. Yes, we were deceived. Some of us went astray. But today, we're living in a world where lies and deception form the foundation and the success of the world in which we live. The good thing is that we as Israelites were called out of that world. We're in the world, but not of the world. So we do not necessarily follow the instructions thereof, because we don't worship the same God as they do in the world. We have a different God. We have laws, statutes, and judgments, and we follow them as closely as possible because we have an everlasting covenant with the Creator of heaven and earth. But to get back to the Thessalonians, Paul is saying, now we beseech you, brethren, by the coming of our Lord Jesus Christ, that, and notice he says, our Lord, so it's very personal there, and by our gathering together unto him, that ye be not soon shaken in mind, or be troubled, neither by spirit, nor by word, nor by letter, as from us, as that the day of Christ is at hand. So he is letting them know that there is a challenge coming. There is a time when the world is going to have to deal with certain circumstances. Let's see what we can find out. Verse 3, he said, let no man deceive you by any means, for that day shall not come, except they come a fallen away first, and the man of sin be revealed, the son of perdition. Now that is the challenge I'm talking about right there. So you're going to have a choice to make. People are attracted to the lie. The lie is very, very profitable. But most people do not think about the consequences thereof because they're wrapped up in the profitability, material gain. And Minister Paul is trying to make it clear that this is going to happen. So you have to be careful. He says, before all of the judgment is going to happen, there has to be a falling away first, and the man of sin must be revealed, even the son of perdition. And it says that to describe this son of perdition, it says, he opposeth and exalteth himself above all that is called God, or that is worshipped, so that he, as God, sitteth in the temple of God, showing himself that he is God. That is a very powerful statement, very, very challenging as well. Because when we say, as I said earlier, in God we trust, you have to know which God are we talking about. And also, why would you put your trust and confidence in him? Because there's another guy who is pretending to be him and has deceived the entire world through lies. This is what we have to be careful with, because the world doesn't quite understand, because the spirit of truth and the spirit of understanding is only reserved for the Israelite nation. It says in verse 5, continuing, "Remember ye not that when I was yet with you, I told you these things? And now ye know what withholdeth, that he may be revealed in his time. For the mystery of iniquity doth already work. Only he who now letteth will let until he be taken out of the way." This is amazing. The mystery of iniquity. A lot of people didn't know that it was a mystery. They thought they're just making a profit. They thought they just have power. They have money, they have wealth. And they figured, well, yeah, I've earned it. That's a lie. If I were to tell you that 99.9% of the wealth and power in this world is founded on the backs of slavery, I will challenge you. And I know you want to deny it, but it is the truth. Because you made all that money because someone else was able to work your land day and night without receiving a salary, without benefiting in any way, form, or fashion. So, what I'm telling you is that the economic structure, the economic system, the capitalist system of this world is built on the backs of slaves. And it just so happens that those slaves were my ancestors. That's why I know what I know. And I know that the ones who were taking the leadership role in that endeavor, that evil, that wickedness, that exploitation, that was all governed by the Vatican. And again, I ask you to investigate it for yourself. So, right now, even as we speak, I'm beginning to see signs of, what can I say, the harvest of that bondage. Because if you sow seeds of criminality, if you sow seeds of injustice, if you sow seeds of racism, if you sow seeds of bondage and affliction, now let me just say, and let me say it plainly and clearly, how the hell are you going to reap peace and harmony in your house? Notice I said hell. You cannot. You cannot sow cotton seeds and reap potatoes. It doesn't work like that. You reap what you sow. So if your foundation is based on violence, excuse me, if somebody shoots you in the head or in the back or in the ear or wherever, how did that happen? Where did they learn to do those things? Who are one of the biggest gun manufacturers in the world? Is it not the Vatican? Check out the Beretta. I'll say no more. Even him, as Paul continues in verse 9. Oh, sorry, let me go back to verse 8. "And then shall that wicked be revealed, whom the Lord shall consume with the spirit of his mouth, and shall destroy with the brightness of his coming." So we're still away. That hasn't occurred yet, but it is coming. And this is why we're telling you, ladies and gentlemen, put your trust in the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob. And don't let that trust be associated with an obelisk or a cross or the Eye of Horus or the Egyptian pyramid. Forget all that stuff. But they got you. You know why? They got you hooked. Because that statement, "in God we trust," associated with those evil symbols, those satanic symbols, are also the money you have in your hand. How are you going to separate the cash from the devil? Did you not know that that symbol is a serpent on a pole? Take a look at it again. The symbol of the dollar, a serpent, snake on a pole. But hey, if you don't want your dollars anymore, just take them to the bank, make a check payable to the Israelite Nation Worldwide Ministries, and trust me, we will expand our conversation and share it with the world accordingly. And we're not saying this because we want your money. You're doing a good deal. You're paying reparations for your enslavement. Thank you. But the point I'm making here is that there's symbolism that expresses the vanity, the hatred, the selfishness, and the wickedness. But where does that come from? That's what Paul is explaining here in Second Timothy, Second Thessalonians. It says in verse 9, even him who's coming is after the working of Satan. Can't say it any plainer than that. With all power and signs and lying wonders. Did I not share some of the signs with you? Did I not tell you at the beginning that this system is based on lies and violence, slavery, bondage, affliction, pain, suffering, death? What more do you need? Did I not mention the word hell? It's right here. It says in verse 9 again. Well, let's go back to 8. And then shall that wicked be revealed, whom the Lord shall consume with the spirit of his mouth, and shall destroy with the brightness of his coming. Even him whose coming is after the working of Satan with all power and signs and lying wonders. So you're going to have Satan first and then judgment. So right now, we are in the era of Satan, and hopefully it's coming towards an end. We shall see. And with all deceivableness of unrighteousness in them that perish, because they receive not the love of the truth, that they might be saved. Oh, this is saying it all. I mean, there's so much here. Because I said at the beginning that people are attracted by the lie. They are attracted by the lie, but they are attracted in total ignorance because they're being deceived. It's called immaculate deception. And that does not allow them to consider the consequences. Their focus is on the profitability of the lie rather than the consequences of the lie. They are not aware that they're sowing their seeds in violence and hatred and death. But I leave it up to each individual to make his or her own decision. It is as simple as that. It is not something that we decide for you. All we do is to make you aware of the circumstances. And we do that because we have faith in our God. In God, we trust. The God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob, who created the heavens and the earth. This is why there's a need for the faith, as I was reading in 2 Thessalonians. To put it in a very in a summary format, we live in a fake world. The world that we live in is fake. Simple as that. Things are not what they appear to be. Again, if you go to New York City, you will see an image of a man with a torch in his hand. Well, is it a man or is it a woman? I can't figure it out. I've been trying to figure this out for the last 20 years. I can't. Because, and other people use it. What's that movie studio that they have it when they're showing the movies all the time? When you go to the cinema and so forth, and even on the internet. And it's a woman then. It looks like a woman. But my point is, it's a fake world. So deception is necessary. And in order to deceive, you have to put things within a cloudy atmosphere. But what is that fire? It reminds me of the allegory of Prometheus. You've heard of that, who allegedly stole the fire from the gods and brought it to man. Notice gods with a G-S. And who is Prometheus then? Again, I leave that up to you to figure out. I'm not going to try to get into that, but that is fascinating. And there's a lot there in that allegory as well. My point, though, is that the world that we live in is not real. That's why we were called out of it. In other words, we're in the world, but not of the world. We subscribe to a different precepts, different laws, different judgments, different statutes, a different God. Many people, as I said before, profit from the lie. So it is not easy to get rid of it. That is a God-given situation. He has the power to do that. The lie and the deception is very powerful to those and very profitable to those who are committed. And that wealth of the lie and the deception is used as a model. People go to school and college and university to learn how to make money from a lie, not how to do things to help their neighbors, not how to build a better healthcare system. And I'm not talking, pills either. I'm talking system based on the nutritional process that would enhance human dignity. This is what I'm talking about, because there's a need for that. They have to, just because you put it in your mouth doesn't mean it's food. But that's a whole different subject. Most people are attracted to the lie without understanding. That's the point I'm making. We know this to be true because we've been given, as Israelites, we've been given the spirit of truth and discernment. So we can tell the truth from the lie. And as I said at the beginning, this was a gift to us as part of the blessing of our covenant from the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob. Therefore, we have the ability to comprehend what goes on outside of our gates. And we know that outside our 12 gates, the lie is dominant. So with this understanding, we could glorify the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob for his wisdom and his power. This is why we can tell you that we put our trust and confidence in the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. It is the faith that allows us to be protected from the mystery of iniquity, as Paul described it earlier. And that mystery is still a mystery to the world. That's why he put it in that way. To us, it's quite plain, quite simple. But to the world, it's confusion. We are aware that Satan and his fallen hellboys are dominant in the world. And we are aware that the lies that are told lead to deception, and that deception leads to violence. And there's more, because with the lie and the deception, there is an administration that promotes it secretly. I call it the invisible government. It's everywhere, but it's very, very real. And the rationale behind that is you can't see it. Because no one is going to say, well, I'm part of the invisible government. I'm the one that deceives the world. I'm the one that's running things under the table. Nobody's going to say that because they're not allowed to tell the truth. They can't handle the truth. However, as I said, we receive the spirit of discernment from the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, and we are made aware of the impact of the fallen hellboys. This is something that occurred a long time ago. but the consequences or the results of it are being seen today by those who have the eyes to see and the ears to hear. The Christ made it very, very clear to us in the past. He said, by their fruits they shall be known. He said that, if I can go to Matthew chapter 7, we could see exactly how he put it. But what does he mean by their fruits they shall be known? The concept there is a parable. It's almost like something is sown, then the time of harvest has come, then you could pick that fruit and you can see exactly what it's all about. The fruit is not necessarily a literal fruit. It is the behavior of the individual. There's a pattern that is easily discernible for those that have the eyes to see and the ears to hear. So by their fruit they shall be known. Let us take a look at Matthew 7. We will read from verse 13. And it says, enter ye in at the strait gate. For wide is the gate, and broad is the way that leadeth to destruction, and many they be which go in thereat. So the gate that is wide, you don't want to go there. It is the one that is straight and narrow. That's where you should begin. And that straight and narrow gate it leads you to our Israelite nation. Verse 14, it says, because straight is the gate and narrow is the way which leadeth to life, and few there be that find it. I get very happy. I feel very happy, I should say, when I know that we are not a big establishment. I'd be happy if we were just 12. Honestly. Okay, maybe 24. The rationale behind that is this is a family. We are a body of Christ. We know our Father, and we are the ones that were adopted by him to serve in his household, to the king's court. We're being vetted. That's a special privilege that is not given to everyone. We can trust each other. I like that. But when you're 50 million people, then you don't know who's who. It's in it for money, for power, vanity, anything except truth and discipline and righteousness. And this is the difference. So when he says the straight and narrow will be only located by a few, now we know exactly what we're talking about. Why we are bringing to you this subject matter, that you can trust in God, the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, who created the heavens and the earth. You can start to seek him out. And you're welcome here to the Israelite nation, so that we could hold hands and call upon him after you have passed the initiation, which is our baptism. Now, it says in verse 15, continuing in Matthew chapter 7, it says, beware of false prophets, which come to you in sheep's clothing. Listen to that. But inwardly they are ravening wolves. You see the lies that I'm talking about? See, people might think that I'm just saying this, or we just say all these things because we want people to follow us. No, it's written here. That's why we're teaching it to you. I didn't write this Bible. Had it not been for Elder Shadrach, I wouldn't even know that there was a Bible. That's how ignorant I used to be. But ignorance, I put that behind me now, and I move forward to the truth. And now it says in verse 16, ye shall know them by their fruit. Exactly what I was saying earlier. Do men gather grapes of thorns? No, of course. Or figs of thistles? No, you don't. You get grapes from the grapevine. If you try to get grapes from thorns, well, you're going to end up with blood all over the grapes. Like, That's not cool. Even so, every good tree bringeth forth good fruits, but a corrupt tree bringeth forth evil fruit. And the world is corrupt. How did it get that way? Because of the spirit of death and corruption, who is Satan. They rather follow him than the God of Israel. It says, a good tree, verse 18, a good tree cannot bring forth evil fruit, neither can a corrupt tree bring forth good fruit. Every tree that bringeth not forth good fruit is hewed down and cast into the fire. And I told this to an audience yesterday. If one of the people that are here with us, is not bringing forth the proper fruit, they got to go. See ya. Bye. I don't shed any tears. And it's not that we kick them out. They will find an exit for themselves. So there's something to be said for that other guy. He could do things that we don't have to do. But the results is that we benefit from them. I'll say no more. The point I'm making is that faith in the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob allows for the spirit of discernment. We could see the behavior of the fallen hellboys, and this behavior is associated with specific symbols, just like we've said today. I think Paul has made that clear to the Thessalonians. Symbols. So where you see the symbols, I described a few earlier today, already at the beginning. The Egyptian pyramid. What's a pyramid? A pyramid is a house of death. When the pharaohs are buried, are dead, and they put the bodies there. So you don't want to be involved with the pyramid. So my question is, why is that on the U.S. dollar? That's a rhetorical question. Why is the obelisk just down the street from the White House? That's another rhetorical question. Why is the Eye of Horus on the dollar? Another rhetorical question. Who is Horus anyway? You see, all of these things, we have to be careful because nothing is new. Everything has a history. And if you don't understand what is happening presently, you have to look at the historical perspective and put everything in its proper alignment. So when you look at Horus, you see Osiris, you see Nimrod, you see Satan. You put the pieces together for yourself. And then you could understand exactly what we are trying to share with you. But let's look at some of the symbols that are associated with the fallen hellboys. You have, as I said earlier, you have the pyramids, you have the obelisk, you have the Eye of Horus, you have that person with a torch in their hands. I don't know if it's a man or woman, but it is what it is. I'm not criticizing. I'm just describing what I see. Then you have also, in addition to that, the five-pointed star. What is that? The pentagram. Isn't that a famous place in the New Egypt? It is what it is. You have the swastika, or the black cube of Saturn. Again, look these things up. Check them out. You have the cross of death. It's in every Vatican location, every Christian shrine. And don't forget that the black cross and the swastika is the same. And some people wear those on their heads. It is what it is. They have the sickle and the hammer, which is really, the hammer is really a cross. And the sickle is actually a snake. But again, you check it out for yourself and you see, if you go to the Vatican, you will see that the buildings are in the shape of a sickle and the cross is in the center. They call it St. Peter's Square, whatever, I don't know. See, that's the problem that I have with these people. If they would stop using the names of our family or using our book, or should I say misusing our book, I will not even discuss any of this stuff. But because they create the confusion through deception and lies, we have to come forward and make things right. We have to clear the record. Stay in your lane and write your own book about your own family. Send me a copy, or let me know where I'll go to Walmart and buy it if I can afford it. So I said earlier, we have the obelisk, the pyramid, and the dollar sign, which is a snake on a pole. All of these are there. Why is there a snake associated with the healthcare industry and all the doctor's offices and so forth, and the ambulance? Why? Just a rhetorical question. You figure it out. So these are just a few of the symbols then. A lot of them were adapted from ancient Egypt, and the Egyptians adapted them from Babylon and the Tower of Babel. And they're being used today as if they're brand new. These are things that are, yeah, so ancient, I can't even put a number on the number of years. Millions of years old? I don't know. But this is why we put our faith in God. We say, in God we trust. And we say it with confidence, and we can explain that statement. We do not follow the ways of the world. Hence, our faith in the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob confirms, and this is very important, that Babylon was a golden cup in the hands of our Father, and all nations of this world, except our Israelite nation, of course, drank of her wine. So they all took a sip from that cup. Therefore, the nations are drunk and mad. And by the way, you can read this in Jeremiah 51, verse 7. All the nations are drunk and mad because they drank from the cup of Babylon, the wine of Babylon. Only our Israelite nation was separated. However, Abram, our great grandfather, he was a Babylonian, but he was protected from that evil with a new spirit from the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. See, this is why we put our trust and confidence in him. Abram was renamed, or the spirit that was given to him was named Abraham. And he was the father of Isaac. Not, what's the name of that guy? Ishmael. He was not the father of Ishmael. Abram was the father of Ishmael. But Abraham, new spirit, was the father of Isaac. And Isaac was his only son. And Isaac then gave birth to, or he was the father of, Jacob, who received a new spirit also from the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, and was named Israel. The spirit was named Israel. So as Elder Collins said earlier, Israel is a man, our great-grandfather. Okay? That's the key. And this is where the confusion comes in, because they misuse in our book. Stay in your lane, folks. I will buy a book about you and your family. Leave our family alone. Don't get it confused. If it doesn't fit, you have to quit. So, thanks to our faith in the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, for 40 years, we were led by our elder Shadrach, and we were made aware of the one world philosophy. They will tell you one world religion. That's a lie, but leave it as it is. We were made aware of the one word philosophy. Why? Because we were dedicated to the truth. And that was recently made public, however, by the Vatican, and I think it was Donald Trump that signed off on that about 5 years ago. And it was named Chrislam. And Chrislam, of course, is Christianity, Islam, Judaism, Freemasonry, all under the authority of the Vatican. We knew that it came with an invisible government. And I call that invisible government avatars. Why do I say that it's led by avatars? Because it's led by the Vatican, number one. Number two, an avatar came out of the water and took control of the people that were weak. Where did that water come from? That was the water that the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob used in the time of Noah to cleanse the earth of its sins. So now you have filthy water, and the avatar came out. He killed all the flesh except for 8, but he didn't kill the spirit. And that's where the spirits came back, the avatars. So this avatar, which settled at the Vatican, has now scammed the entire world by immaculate deception. Few people are aware of all philosophies are but allegories that emanated from the Tower of Babel years ago, and that the participants worship the same demon. They call him a god, using different names and rituals. And you can go and look at what they do in Freemasonry, in Judaism, in Islam, in Christianity. They all do the same thing or similar patterns. They all have the same cross. Some have the cube or the swastika on their forehead, whatever, I don't know. But few are aware that the name of that demon is just an expression of specific characteristics that are displayed by the fallen hellboys. So to the Greeks, it may be one thing. To the Romans, it is something else. To the Persians, it's another thing. To the Christians, it is something else. The list is endless. Everyone receives according to their own understanding. We are given, or we receive according to the terms of the covenant by the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. So the evidence then from the mystery of iniquity reveals that the Vatican already has unified the spiritual and the cultural dynamics of the fallen ones. Or they have used the Vatican to unify the spiritual and cultural dynamics of Chrislam. So the next stage is to unite the economic and military dynamics. They already got the cultural and the spiritual. The next stage is to have the economic and the military. Now we know that Trump is pushing back on the economic side because he's increasing his tariffs on everybody. But he has already facilitated on the cultural and the spiritual side because he signed off 5 years ago, the White House, with Chrislam. They call it the Abraham Accord, but we know that's fake. That's a lie. Again, they're misusing our book. Now, we know also today that Putin is pushing back on the military collaboration. And he's using China, or he has help from China and North Korea in that process. So this is why a lot of more military confusion is ongoing. Again, when you see these things going on in the world today, there's a history. I've said this before. There's a strong spiritual current, undercurrent, that most people cannot see. Therein lies the invisible government that I'm talking about. Check these things out for yourself and see why it is necessary that you put your faith and confidence in the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, that you come and be one with us so that you can isolate yourself from the tragedy that is about to come, as Paul described earlier in the book of Thessalonians. All of this is very, very fascinating because you have the Ashkenazi Khazars, who are one of the most effective pawns in the game, by the way, and they pretend to be innocent, but secretly they work on both sides. I like that. I like that from that side because they can't lose. If you win, they lose. If you lose, if you win, they win. If you lose, they win. Good strategy. Very good strategy. Hence, the mystery of iniquity has allowed the Vatican to establish the city of London as the economic center based on the Christian transatlantic slave trade, which they now called Chrislam. They had a hand in it because you had the Muslims selling us to the Christians, and is financed by Judaism and overseen by Freemasonry. And all of it is governed by the Vatican. Again, this is not criticism, this is education. And I invite you to check it out. Check out the history of this process, the Vatican and what they've done, Chrislam and what they've done, or what they are doing right now. So, to conclude then, and I can go on for another 2 hours, but just to conclude, by faith, we, this Israelite nation, we have put behind us the shame of the Vatican, or the shame and affliction from the Vatican, the slavery that they have put in place. And we are confident now, and we are preparing for our redemption. By faith, we use our God-given talent to rebuild his holy temple, not by wood and stone, but by flesh and bone. A temple built without hands. By faith, we labor to teach our children not to follow the ways of the world, not to follow the deception of this world, instilling within them the confidence of our Israelite royal heritage. By faith, our elder Shadrach, when he was called by the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob, he delivered the message of our everlasting covenant, a covenant of truth and peace. He revealed the foundation of our temple, built on the wisdom of the prophets and the apostles, with Christ as the chief cornerstone. So when we look back at what the world has done, we stand strong with confidence in the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob. Yes, there was a time when our light did not shine, but now we understand that here we are in the West, and we are not the only ones in the dark West, because even the sun sets in the West every day. We were buried there, but thanks to our redemption, we were resurrected, thanks to the effort of our elder Shadrach, who has given us that knowledge, that understanding of our God and the mandate that we should fulfill. Now our light has been restored. We are now the light of the world. And even though the dark Lord is ruling in the West, we still let our light shine at the border thereof, even here in Canada. So we give thanks to the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob for this rebirth, a rebirth that was enacted by the union of water and fire. We call it baptism. Thereby, we receive the wisdom from the east, the ancient wisdom of the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. And our light is even brighter than the sun here in the west. We regain the light of truth, and that makes it even brighter than the light of the sun. So we know that the West is the land of the dead, so we understand what the things that are ongoing here, but we are not part of that. We are separated from them. We have been called out, as I said before, and we see what they've done. So redemption confirms that although the children of Israel were sold into slavery since 1619, they could not be bought by anyone, thanks to the everlasting covenant with the God of Israel. The God of Israel has never relinquished his custody of our Israelite nation. And even though the fallen hellboys actively engage in identity theft, they still cannot take control over this wonderful Israelite nation. And with that understanding, I wish you well, and I hope that you would take the instructions that we've given here from the Holy Bible and from the historical aspect, and try to get a sense of appreciation for the Spirit of truth. And with that, I say peace.